January 26th is now called to order. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes for the regular session of 112. I'm sorry, it's the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes for the regular session of 112-12, governance minutes of 16-12, budget and finance minutes of 110-12, and the acceptance of warrants 31V12 and 30P12. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next up is our student rep, Matt Hartford, to fill us in on everything going on at the high school.
So the main thing is it's been a stressful week for most students. It's coming to a close though, so that's good. And we have a half day tomorrow, so most students are happy about that.
Stressful for what reason, Matt?
Midterm exams were this week. Another major thing going on is the play is in 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks from tonight. Sales for tickets will start next week, and actually the understudy performance will actually be next Friday night. So things are coming close, and everything's coming together.
That's great.
It's good.
All right.
Basketball game tonight?
I think it's tomorrow night.
There was a middle school game this evening,
Yes.
but I don't know what high school is. All right, the audiences. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on about anything that's on our agenda? Nope. All right, first up will be the DECA students to talk to us about their recent competition and their great results that we all heard about.
Yes, this is quite exciting news.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to grab?
Oh, we'll
there's
pull
one
a
right
chair.
behind you.
Yeah, just
Pat,
Pat,
do
could you
mind
just pull that chair up for?
so that she can?
Sorry.
No, no problem. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much for inviting us. I'm sorry more students couldn't be here, but they are studying for tomorrow's
Well,
exam.
then you know
We
what?
just
That's
heard
a good
about
excuse.
So Ashley Federico, our
Hi, Ashley.
president, is here, and Mimi LaCortelia.
Mimi. Well, first of all, I want to, one of the things Ann and I have been talking about is how nice it is to recognize some of the accomplishments of our students. And there are many accomplishments to celebrate. But recently, I know I had the pleasure to join you and enjoy your celebration. And I did write up some things in the packet here for the school committee in terms of your results. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about how well everybody did. I did speak about how much the program's grown, which I'm very excited about. It's gone from 12 the first year to 36 or 38, but 36 that actually went to the districts. Correct?
Correct.
And there's a large number of students going to the States in Boston coming up very, very soon. So maybe just refresh. I know Rob and Barbie are new to the committee. Maybe they're not as familiar, but just a few words about what you're doing and how your program works.
All right, so DECA is a marketing, business, entrepreneurship, accounting, any form of business you can do a competition in. So you'll have a 100-question multiple choice test, and then you proceed with a role play, and that's either with a partner, so you'll have 30 minutes to prepare, or if you're an individual, you have 10 minutes. And it's just a really great program that goes national. I mean, last year we went to Disney World, and it's just such a great way to figure out if business is right for you. I mean, I was a sophomore. I joined when it was first, and Mrs. Ryer talked it up to us, and at first we weren't sure, but I mean, I figured out what I want to do now with my life through DECA. I had no idea before, and now I do. So
Yes.
I love it. And we had a 70% competition rate our first year, and that was with the 12 students. But now, out of the 36, we have a 59% rate. So with the increase of membership, that's pretty significant, right, I would say. So.
Yeah, and if you look in your packet, you did see a list, I believe, of the students.
21 students placed first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. And so that's 21 out of your 30. You just mentioned 36. So that's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. And little Georgetown, competing against some of these programs that are very much larger schools with many more students and much more established programs. And I know that I hear all the time from Mrs. McFadden, who's the state coordinator, and she lives in Georgetown actually, that she's just so impressed with Georgetown, because it just doesn't happen that young programs like this that are only a few years in operation have the success that our students are having. And that's a testimony to Lisa and the quality of all the kids. I mean, they really support each other. It was really nice to be there. Somebody won, they were, cheering, jumping around, getting all excited, and you can see the sense of team in these students, and it's just to watch them do the work. It's really nerve-wracking when you're a judge and kids are up in front of you, and some kids are very nervous, but not our guys. They're very very well presenting. They're presenting very well and making us very proud. So I'm so glad you guys were able to come tonight, and I know the students would have come if they weren't studying.
They absolutely would have. They wear their medals proudly.
As they should.
Ashley brought her medal, and
I forgot mine, but with my teammate. I'm here.
Yeah.
And Ashley has been here. There's actually both ladies
Both
have been
ladies,
here
yeah.
3 times. This is their 3rd time.
Yes.
They've come each year, and so we know already that Ashley is going to be going off to her first choice college in Bentley.
Oh,
Next
great.
Congratulations.
In business school. That's awesome.
I'm going to be doing accounting and finance. So.
That's great.
Good for you.
So, and we know that Mimi will not be going into the business field, which is equally as important.
That's
to
right. Were you
find
in-
out what's
Tell us
going
what
on.
you were interested
Well,
in.
I originally wanted to be a psychiatrist, but then I changed my major. I want to be a physical therapist.
Oh, okay.
But DECA is an amazing program that's given me so much self-confidence
Yeah.
for public speaking, and it's just an amazing way to meet new people, and it's a great jump into almost like the college life by meeting so many new faces, and it's just a great opportunity for anyone, regardless of whether your major is business or not.
It's nice for everyone to hear that if you are not interested in business at all to begin with, there's still a great spot for you, and you can learn a lot from it.
Definitely. I've learned so much over these past 3 years, Mrs. Ryer, from business classes and DECA in general. It's an amazing opportunity for anybody.
It really helps with becoming creative thinkers, thinking outside of the box, having poise and confidence to speak in front of an adult stranger business person, putting on the clothes and really getting an experience as a young teenager that most people don't have. It's a real life situation that you're given a problem, you have a short time to come up with a creative, unique solution and to present that in a professional manner. And the students have done amazingly well.
Well, please tell those other students how proud we are of them, and that this just is an amazing accomplishment in your program and your work.
I have a stupid question. What does DECA stand for?
It was Distributive Education Club of America, but now it is no longer used as an acronym.
So it's just DECA.
Yes.
Just DECA.
Good job.
Thank you for
and
making
thank you
the
for
time. Really
coming.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, moving right along. Mrs. LaFlamme, field trip fundraising request.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening, Laura.
I'm just here because the vocal groups at our high school have been invited to sing the national anthem at the Manchester Monarchs game in Manchester, New Hampshire, on February 26th, which is the last Sunday of our February vacation. And they give us discounted tickets for the kids, because even though we're performing, we need a seat to watch the game. But what we also are allowed to do is take the discounted tickets and sell them to family and friends, and help defray the cost of our own students' ticket and their bus ride up there. So it's kind of a fundraiser, but we're not really looking to make money. We're looking to defray the cost of our students' tickets that are performing. Plus, we'd love to our family and friends to come hear us.
So how did they find out about you? Or
Well,
how does
I think it's a program they have that they try to get schools to come in, and they contacted Corey and I last summer, and also invited Corey, the band, to go too. But the band had opted to do a couple other things this year, and we still decided to go ahead with that program. So, because we have so many chorus students right now, they won't all go, but I'll have plenty to go to make that chorus happen. So, because it's during school vacation. So, I'm sure we'll have probably 40 to 50 kids going. So,
that's excellent.
yeah.
How big is the course?
Well, we have a chorus and a chorale and the a cappella club.
Okay.
So we have right now there's about 110 chorus students, and then the a cappella club is 38 right now. So
That's
Just-
nice.
quite big. Yeah.
Well,
So-
Laura has a
great.
program because she does an amazing job, so it puts a lot of extra time and energy into it, that's for sure.
Thank you.
This is quite an honor for the kids. I bet they're excited.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Great.
All right. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the fundraising request for chorus for the purpose of defraying the cost of the Manchester Monarchs hockey trip as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
It's an easy.
Thank you very much.
Have fun, Laura.
Come to the game.
Thanks, Laura.
Brian, are you going to talk about the Builders Club?
I can speak on.
Okay, come on up.
Can you come on? That would be great.
Want to give that to Brian so he.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Actually, I'm just here on behalf of Ms. Downing and the Builders Club. Ms. Downing is at home recovering from some surgery. I spoke to her today. She
She doing well?
she is doing well,
Good.
and she sends her regards and her apologies that she couldn't be here in person.
Understandable.
She has asked me to sit in for her to request permission to do a penny drive for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation. In speaking with her, this was done at least a couple of years ago, and with most of the fundraising money going to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation and a portion of it going to a local student who was living with lymphoma. And that's about it. The kids get little boxes, and they can take their pennies and loose change, and they have a certain amount of time, and then they turn the boxes in. And then the money is turned over to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation.
And from what I read, there's no soliciting
No.
with this at all. It's just that the students that are doing it on their own. So
Correct.
You know, just so people know that as well.
Correct.
And then they're selling lollipops as well before and after school
On the back, on the back.
on the back.
That was news to me, but,
Yeah, no, there's just two, but it's going for the same.
oh, okay.
Right. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the fundraising request of the Builders Club for both the selling of lollipops and the penny drive for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society as presented.
Just a point of information, it took me a minute to jog my memory, but I believe these are two different.
They are.
They are,
Two different
But they're-
programs.
but they're both raising funds for the Leukemia and Lymphoma.
Oh, we don't know. Are they?
Yeah, no, we did from Carol's notes.
Yeah.
So you're just going to approve the fundraising requests.
Of
the Builders Club.
If there's any new information I have about the lollipop drive, I will let you know,
Okay.
because I vaguely remember a conversation with Ms. Downing, and it may have been for the same thing, but there was something in addition that I'm missing right now, so
Okay.
I'll get
alright.
back to you if there's
So the-
anything more.
Is it, so we can.
That one I think had to do
Why don't
with
you withdraw
actually
your motion?
soliciting.
I'm withdrawing my
children.
motion, Laura.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the fundraising activities for the Builders Club as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Right,
Thank
you're
you
all
very
set.
much.
Thank you
I
very
heard
that
you
one-
asking about middle school basketball. I know the girls put forth a very good effort
They
today
did.
because I was there. I didn't see the end of the boys'
The
game.
boys lost, but
Boys
they
lost.
did good.
That they played.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard it firsthand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll get them.
Yep, they
That's
look
right.
pretty good. They hang
That's
in there
right.
every game.
They
that's for
do.
sure.
They do.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
you
very
very
much, Brian. Okay, can we have Justin Spur come up now before we
Okay,
get into the next
sure.
thing?
Just pass that back around to me.
Congratulations
Justin.
on your new job.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thanks. Yeah.
Justin is
It's,
the varsity
He's the new-
baseball coach.
Varsity baseball coach.
Yeah.
That's me.
It's actually, you know, a dream come true of mine. You know, playing here and going through Georgetown and then going to playing college. I coached at Pentucket 4 years, and everyone knew that this is where I wanted to be. So it was good. You know, the last 2 years under Coach Rowe was great for me, just learning. I thought I was ready years ago to be a varsity coach, but now I know.
Good.
And, I'm ready to go and really do a lot of things for the town and the kids within the town.
So do you predict like a strong season?
Yeah.
Like any
Yeah, I won't.
500?
I
I'm
won't.
just kidding.
I won't say. You know, the kids know my feelings of this year, and you know, nothing to the students that graduated last year, but I feel like our team is stronger this year than last year, and we lost in the state final to Cohasset. So
Okay, you heard it here first.
I'm not making any predictions,
it's-
but those are my feelings, you know, and I have a a lot of pressure because these
That's
kids have already
right.
done it.
You
so-
do have a lot of
Oh,
pressure.
yeah.
There's a lot of pressure on you.
So thank you for letting me come tonight. I've given everyone the packet.
Yeah.
The first letter on top is what went home. I had a fundraiser meeting with anyone potentially coming out for the team because I wanted to get the parents' feelings of the fundraisers. So I had a parents' night. Jim and Christine Ingraham were gracious enough to let us use their house, and we invited parents to come. I explained the fundraisers that we were proposing to do this year. I told them nothing was set in stone. Just I wanted to find out from them before I came in front of you if there was any problems. You know, if the parents had any issues with it, they would, you know, given a chance to speak before we went forth with it. So the one that I'm here presenting tonight is on behalf of Georgetown Alumni Baseball, not through the school, and I did sit down with Mr. Lucia, and we went through these 3 fundraisers, and he explained to me, because it's an outside group and not the Georgetown varsity baseball program, I needed to bring it, you know, forth to you. The other 2 he has in his office, and those are going through the chains that they have to go to. So on behalf of Georgetown Alumni Baseball, we would like to put on a fundraiser. It will be a raffle ticket fundraiser. We would sell 300 tickets to the kids and the parents. We all know the parents mostly sell all the tickets, you know, at their work, outside, to anyone. For $50 each, 300 tickets would bring in roughly $15,000, and then we would pay out 3 positions. We would pay out first prize would be $2,500, second prize $1,500, and third prize would be $1,000. We would like to officially end it and have the raffle at our first home game versus Rockport, which is a very, very big game for us. That would be Saturday, April 14th. We would do the drawing. Another way to bring people to our events. I've filled out the paperwork with the clerk's office, and those are in the chain, working the way up. All I have to do is let them know if it is approved and we go forward with it or not. It's, as you can see, page 2 that I gave everyone is an example of what the tickets would look like. And this is what people would actually get. We would take the bottom portion. And then on the back page is a breakdown of the equipment that we would like to purchase. Basically the uniforms. The kids have grown. They're 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old.
No question.
You know, they're fading, wearing. They don't fit the kids. And then we actually found a really good deal with Under Armour. We've spoken with a rep, a team sales rep, and he gave us the best price. They were about $50 a shirt, roughly around $55, $60 a shirt, and then roughly around $40 per pair of pants. We would outfit the varsity with blue tops and gray bottoms, and we would get gray bottoms for the JV team. The JV students would now have all of both JV and varsity uniforms, so we would be able to fit them with the proper stuff. Batting helmets, 75 to 90% of them are cracked, broken, outdated, and just not up to standards, especially with the concussion. My wife is an athletic trainer at Triton, and I know it's huge. We have no quality catcher's gear within the program. That's another safety issue. A portable batting cage for batting practice with varsity being right at the pond. I mean the river. We lose a ton of baseballs. So that will save so much money every single year, especially with the budget that we receive from the school. Every year we have to put in for practice baseballs. Then we can move ours down to the JV, and they will not hit the house and lose them in the hill. They've changed the regulations on the baseball bats for high school this year. So every single bat that we have in that school right now in the program is no good. We can't even use it. So we can hit fly balls with them to the outfield, but it's not worth using them in batting practice because it's not the same. Last year, the JV squad had to use trash barrels to protect their pitchers during batting practice. And in the past 5 years or so that I've been coaching, I know of at least 3 cases across the U.S. of baseball players being hit in the head and in comas. A parent actually went out and donated an L screen last year to protect their kid. They also have no nets to hit into, so as soon as the lacrosse games are at their field, the football/JV baseball field, they have to pretty much end practice because they have nothing that they can hit into at the backstop. So it's not fair to these students that pay over $300 and the parents. They were having 45-minute long practices because they had nothing. So a lot of it would go to the JV program, outfitting them with safety equipment and proper equipment to run their practices and programs. And everything that adds up here, as you can see, is more than what we would make on this raffle, but hopefully with the other 2 fundraisers that we would be doing with the school, it would all equal up that we can get a lot of safety equipment and equipment that we need to move forward. And this is really just a 1-year thing. I mean, it's 1 in every 5 years, 4 years that we need to replace uniforms. And I know, because I live in town and the override and everything, the school system just does not have the money to do this. So that's why I started this Georgetown Alumni Baseball. I'm actually want to get the alumni back in, and we're going to put forth an alumni game this year, and then we would donate all this equipment to the school. So
Great.
that's what I'm proposing tonight, is to go forth with this fundraiser.
Well, thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. It's great to see. So I guess the reason why we have to do this is because the players are going to be soliciting funds, and it could be 2 students.
Can I just ask a question?
Absolutely.
When you had the meeting, how did the parents respond to the $50, the requirement that the 10 tickets?
Well, it's not mandatory to sell 10 tickets,
Right.
and it's not mandatory to sell all 300. They were all for it. There was no negative feedback. On there at the bottom, you can see I gave my email address to every parent. Hopefully the students gave this letter to their parents. I can only go so far, can't walk it to their house. But I received no emails, no negative feedback. Some of the parents that have 2 players had no problem. We're asking to sell 10, and whatever they can sell, it's benefiting them.
Right.
And I'm going to sell 10 to 20 tickets myself, and my assistant coaches will be selling tickets as well. So there was no negative feedback from the entire thing. Plus, there was actually positive because the football, Friends of Football, I think it is the partners, they actually did it in the fall, and they sold them for 100. So we saw that
That's the one I was talking about, right?
with the change, and we don't want to ask too much of the people in the town and parents to try and sell $100. We don't need that much money. Like, their equipment is a lot more than ours. So we decided 50 was a good number to get us to where we needed to, because it's not a profit. We're not looking for a profit. We just need to raise the money to get the proper equipment for these kids. So.
All right. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the Georgetown Alumni Baseball fundraiser as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Good job.
Okay, moving right along. Special education.
Education Director. Kath, you want to come up? Sit at the table. It's my pleasure to introduce Kathleen Estep. I put her resume in your packet, and Kath is my recommendation for the interim director of special education. She is currently she is currently a special education director in Burlington, and I guess she's seeing this job as a way to ease herself into retirement, right? So she's going to be working beginning February 7th, if we approve the contract and appoint her tonight. February 7th would be her first day in the district, and I think I put in a bit of her schedule in your notes. She's going to be working in the district on Tuesdays and Thursdays and one Wednesday a month. And she's amenable to additional days if we have to, but she certainly wants to, restrict her time to somewhat. This isn't a 2-day-a-week that goes to a 5-day very quickly, although it could, because there's a lot of work that comes up, and this is a very demanding job. But because of her experience, and I don't think she's going to experience anything in Georgetown she hasn't maybe experienced somewhere else. And she met, several of us met with her, and we were all very, very impressed. And Jim hired her in Burlington, so we have a little connection there,
Yep.
and he just raves.
And she was a good choice.
He raves about her, so we are very excited to potentially have the chance to work with Kath. And so because this is a joint appointment, you and me, it's really important that you have a chance to meet Kath, have any chance to ask her any questions that you might have, and then together we need to agree that she would be our choice, and then to discuss a contract, which we can do briefly at in executive session. I think we put a draft of the contract in the.
I thought
You
there,
did.
I thought there was.
I saw it.
Yeah.
So, any questions for Kath, or anything you'd like to say, Kath?
Oh, I've been in special education for many years. I started off as a special ed teacher. I was a special ed teacher for 10 years, team chairperson for 8 years, and a people services director for a very long time. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my retirement, and it's very difficult to go from full-time 100 miles an hour to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's a great match for 2 days a week and for working through this.
It'll be great for us because, with her experience, as I said, we're obviously planning to look at our programs, and she'll have that expertise to be able to come in and do it. We also had Pam Lundquist come in and meet with her, as the CPAC chair. That was important also, because one of the things that we would want Kath to do would be to work with the families and the parents. So she's agreed to come to a CPAC meeting and do a meet and greet, which Pam is planning. And then from there, we'll have to do a really good job of helping prioritize, her time, because there are many things we'd like her to do that she just will not have time to do. So first priority, obviously, will be, working with staff, administrators, special ed staff, working with families as needed, certainly, and then just the budget and any of those kind of financial things that go with the job. And then we'll figure out from there what needs to happen. I know I certainly we'll certainly have a lot of people to help her. And Kim Leonard and Eileen Lee, who are the administrator, the school-based administrators for special ed, working together, facilitating meetings and sort of coordinating day-to-day operations, are phenomenal. And they will learn a lot under Kath's leadership, I think. So, any questions?
I guess the only question that I had was, with special ed, the way that we have it set up here, it covers the entire district.
Correct.
And in Burlington, were you focused on the entire school system, or was it just the K to 8, or it was the entire district?
I had the entire
You had the
district,
entire
and
district.
it was pupil services, so I had guidance nurses,
Yeah.
ELL, as well as special
Oh, you
education.
had everything.
For how many students, Kath? I mean,
Well, the total
Burlington is,
population is over 3,000.
yeah, so it's double our
That's great.
size. So that's why I said I think she'll be able to handle anything we have in Georgetown
No, that's
very ably.
wonderful. I was just curious.
We were
how
so
they
excited.
work.
We were so excited because, as you know, we've continued to
Right.
interview, and we just didn't see the person that we wanted, and then when we had the opportunity to meet Kathy, like, that's it, let's
And
do
we've
it.
been trying so hard to get our in-house programs up and running.
Yes, we have,
and
yeah.
continuing them on, and really keeping as many students as we can
In the
among
district.
their friends and where they're comfortable. So it's nice to have,
Right,
the opportunity to bring someone on board that has all that experience.
exactly.
So
Okay.
congratulations on your retirement.
For the 3 days that it will be, she retires on February 3rd and starts here on February 7th.
But still, it's a match for me.
Yeah.
To ease into retirement.
Yeah, it's excellent.
That's
And you live
Right in Beverly.
in Beverly, so it's
Oh, that's a
close
nice, easy
proximity
commute
for her.
you.
A
It
little
really-
easier than
you don't have
Burlington,
128.
right?
Much easier.
Yeah.
As I drove up at 128 this morning and say, okay, I'm almost here.
How would-
Days
Yeah,
where
after
I
an
sit
hour
in
on the road,
traffic.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You don't deal with traffic like that up
No,
here.
there isn't any.
And so then Carol shall also be helping to get a permanent.
Yes.
Help us with that
yes,
process.
Yes. Right. We'll be using some of her networks, and she can help us really kind of formulate what are we looking for, because she'll have had a chance to really evaluate our programs and work with our staff. She'll have an opportunity to help us find the right person.
I had the opportunity of meeting you at the meeting, and
That's
I
right,
was,
and Barbie
I was,
was there, too.
yeah,
I
I was
should
very
mention this.
impressed. So thank you for coming.
Oh, great, thanks.
All right.
All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Dr. Kathleen Estep as the interim special education director as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Welcome, Kathy. Thank you very much,
Thank you very
Kathy.
much.
Thank you for
Good
making
luck
the
over
trip
the next
tonight.
week. Great, thanks. Okay, all right, moving right along, next up is the Camp Kev approval, which we are moving to our next meeting on February 9th. Next up then is the school building project design discussion.
Ellie and Pat.
Julie's here. I just saw her. Just go check.
Because I'll say it under superintendent's comments.
All right,
Good evening.
Welcome.
Well, there's been a lot of activity over the last week that we would like to update you with. MSBA contacted Pat and Chuck last Wednesday and said that they wanted to make a visit to Georgetown and take a tour of all the schools. On Thursday, actually, at 2:00. So on Thursday, Selectman Gary Fowler, Mike Smith, Steve Smith, I'm sorry, Carol, Rob, wearing both hats as school committee and building committee, Michelle Smith, myself, and also a representative from Senator Tarr's office, Suzanne Testaverde, did the tour. And representing the MSBA was Mary Pichetti, Chris Allies, Brendan Melican, and Terry Kwan. And Terry Kwan is one of the board members of MSBA. The reason they cited for wanting to tour the buildings is because they had some questions on the space issues that would be vacated by moving 6th grade down at the high school, space issues that would arise moving kindergarten and 1st grade from Pearlie, and they still had some additional questions about the maintenance at Pembroke and also maintenance throughout the town. So each principal took us on a tour of their building and were there to answer questions as they arose. At Pearlie, the main question they had really centered around flooding in the basement. They were shown the roof that had issues. At the high school, I think they were really a bit more surprised when they saw some of the issues, many more issues, I think, than they expected. The interior interior rooms, the spacing, and then Peter also expressed that by moving 6th grade out, the spacing still would not be adequate, that he still felt they needed more. And the science classrooms, science labs, they felt needed a little bit more work. And some of this, they weren't too pleased with the location of some of the special ed classrooms. And then we toured Pearlie, They really didn't have very many questions about, Pembroke. They really didn't have very many questions about Pembroke. And in fact, at the end of the tour, they told us to continue as we were, that they felt we were on the right path, that renovating Pembroke really was probably not the best financial solution for us, and that they supported what we had been doing so far and going with the K through 6 and to continue on that path. New building, in a new building, right. They just didn't feel that, they felt that the building committee had come to the right decision in pursuing a new building. And they wanted a little time to digest what they heard. The following day, Friday, Friday afternoon, called Pat and said, is there any chance that you, Chuck, and Carl, our architect, could meet us on Monday morning? They just wanted to have a little bit of a brainstorming session. And basically what they came back with, and I'm going to let some other people share the information, but basically what they came back with was they feel that the scope of our project isn't going far enough, that there may be more issues facing the high school than we're addressing with a K through 6 building. So why don't we actually, and ultimately what they're saying to us by that is they feel we should expand our feasibility study to look at grades 7 and 8, moving grades 7 and 8, or working with them. So where would we like to start? Would you like to add anything?
Can I just add one? I don't mean to jump in, but having said that they want us to expand the scope, I went to the MSBA meeting the other day, but couldn't stay until the very end when they discussed Georgetown. But one of the comments when we first came up on their agenda was that this is the first time that they've ever gone back to a district and said, your scope isn't big enough. We've uncovered more issues that you really need to address. And I think coming from them as our business partner, because they're going to be funding a little less than 50% of it, is something that we can't ignore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But I don't want to, I just wanted to get that point out that,
right.
that this wasn't us pushing them that we need more. They were the ones that kind of halted us and said, you're missing a few things that you really need to address. So
Well, we had a discussion with Mary Paquetti after that session, and we had talked to her, several times. This has been quite a communication week, quite frankly. It's been almost a constant communication between the various meetings. But the reason they've asked for us to go back to the study is they haven't yet dispelled completely the fact that what's currently on paper in moving the 6th and the K and the 1st would solve the problem. What they want to do is they want us to go in and do a complete in-depth, and the architect has educational consultants, and they want a complete review of the rooms, the spaces, how they stack up against the space template at the high school, and then take a real look at exactly what spaces become available and then how you would move those spaces. Now, the school department did a yeoman's job. They actually did it twice. They came back and they critiqued it because as part of the preferred alternative submission, they want to know what's going to happen with the spaces that are being vacated. So there were two attempts at getting it done, and there were spaces that were moved into those areas. There was questions about moving some of the special ed spaces, so it went back, and Carol and her team worked round the clock over the weekend and everything else and reorientated that. That went back into them, and they looked at it again, and they said, we really want to come up and look at the spaces. When they came up and looked at the spaces, they saw that some of the existing spaces were interior with no windows. Some of the science rooms had some moisture issues. So they feel that before they buy into what has been put on paper, that there's another fresh look at all the spaces, take a look at how you can reorientate these things. And their gut reaction is, you may need to expand the program. But they're willing to understand that there is an economic reality to what is possible. And basically, they've indicated that we feel you need a new building. We think it may have to be bigger, but we understand. But we'd like to see exactly what all of these spaces look like, how they'd be reorientated, and how critical the need is to expand the problem, or to expand the program. With that, we discussed with them the 3 areas, and we can constantly stress with them that there is economic input on this whole thing. The affordability of this program is very, very important. They understand that. So that the options as we go through the study, assuming we continue with the study, is that it may be that in going through and doing this complete analysis, that somehow the K through 6, with an in-depth study on how we can move these things on, maybe it does get to a point where it may not be perfect, but maybe it's something that can be accomplished. Then they also want us to take a look at what it means to expand it, change the gradation. Maybe it's 1 through 7 or a K through 7, just to take a look at what that would mean and how that would work out. And then this study would also put price tags on it. And they also understand that whatever that solution might be, it might be that you accomplish the new building, the K through 6 now, and then you have other work that has to be done down the road a piece. So they understand their preference is to keep the momentum. They really feel that Georgetown has been as vigorous as you can possibly be in moving this thing forward. And they'd hate to lose that momentum. They'd like to keep that momentum going, and they'd like to see you solve the entire problem. But again, they also are realists. But they really want to roll up their sleeves and work with Georgetown. So they're available to work with them right through the study program. We would be in constant communication. Last night, Monday night, the building committee acted on a proposal by the architect, and he's got a very detailed program on how the study would take place. It starts with the digestion of the existing program, evaluating the spaces, measuring the spaces, looking at the allocation, preparing a template as to how they would stack up against the modern arrangements, taking a look at the conditions, and then with that start to work with the community, the school committee, the building committee, the selectmen, everybody else who's obviously got a stake in making a very substantial financial investment into this project. I like to keep my fingers crossed and be an eternal optimist that what we have on paper is going to work. After all is said and done, this is going to come together. But again, they really want to be convinced because they want it to be the right decision for the state and they want it to be the right decision for Georgetown. So the architect is, like I said, is actually has commenced that. He's going to, again, like I said, start to work within the confines of setting up the meetings, looking at the program.
We're meeting on Monday.
On Monday,
Peter, Brian, myself, and Mike Anderson are meeting with the architect
Right.
and the architect's team on
Right.
Monday morning at 8 o'clock.
The impact to the schedule is we lose about 6 months no matter how we do it. The assignment was almost complete. The assignment was to complete the preferred alternative and complete the schematic design submission. That took us to the final step in the process. That schematic design packet is the packet that MSBA votes on, the dollars and the scope. And that would go to town meeting in May, and then the override would occur in June. It would include all the dollars to finish the drawings and complete the construction. By obviously moving this arrangement and doing this study, we can't submit the schematic, and we have to submit another preferred alternative. It may be the same preferred alternative, but that's going to get us into the June 8th meeting. And because we're spending dollars now, obviously, that we already spent, we already completed, the architect especially completed the schematics, we with them. Again, like I said, that is all going to move down the road, and when we get to June 8th, we're not going to be able to vote. So there's a placeholder that's probably going to go in. There may be some additional dollars to finish the schematic design so we can submit the schematic in September, which would go to a town meeting in the fall, and then be voted on in November, which would mean you'd finish the drawings and be out to bid in, say, June of 13. So it just increases that time frame. It does reproduce some of the work that may be done, but one of the reasons we talk about it being a placeholder, because if this now justifies what's already on paper, then the impact on redoing schematics may not be dramatic, may be minor. If we're going to stay with the same schematics that we were going to be submitting on February 2nd, it simply means that we're going to go through a justification period, and the cost to redo the documents will be minor because there won't be that many changes to it. But we won't know until we finish with the study and until the community votes what the preferred alternative is going to be. It may be as simple as what we have already on paper to justify moving the classes that we're moving, and it may be something else. We just don't know what it's going to be until the study is done.
The building committee would like to have a public meeting with the school committee, the selectmen, and FinCom. Sit down and also invite MSBA and Laura is working on trying to put together a meeting for February 7th, so that the full boards can, ask the questions, get some answers, and really brainstorm some ideas and suggestions on how to proceed with this. We do know that we have $150,000 that we haven't spent on the feasibility study. And that was gonna be great. We thought we were gonna have some money to return back to the town. So that money is still available if we should need it. Right now, we are having it checked to make sure it could be used the way the warrant read and everything. We wanna, make sure everything's okay, so we'll have those answers when we meet and make some decisions. And then on Wednesday, the MSBA actually had their monthly board meeting, which was represented by Ann and Carol and
Pat
and
Carl was there as well.
right, and they were pretty verbal about where they stood with this. And you have anything else, Carol, you want to add?
Well, I have to say, it was a very, very positive. The comments that were made on behalf of the in reference to the building committee, and all of the collaborative work that had been done in the town to date, was recognized. As Ellie and Pat said, the energy, the way this process has moved forward with the intensity and trying to engage everyone in the conversation, from abutters to having, they said that they hardly ever hear of building committee meetings being televised publicly. So they feel like the committee's gone well out of their way to really make sure that this process is transparent and inclusive. And Terry Kwan, who was the board member when we went to the facilities meeting, she was really not certain that we should have even gotten into the pipeline. In fact, she stated that because she did not feel that enough money had been spent in the schools and in the town on our school buildings, and was very concerned that if the state were to give any more money for a building project, that they would risk that the investment wouldn't be maintained. So she went from that perspective, and then after her visit, and I do give her a lot of credit for making the time to come out and see it for herself. I don't think the board members do that all that often. Generally, it's staff that comes out from MSBA. The fact that she came out and she went from, you really don't belong in the pipeline, you shouldn't have gotten there in the first place, to basically, you need a new project. We, for the first time in 5 years, believe that you should go back in, instead of bumping you out, we think you should go back and look again at your project, because we feel that doesn't necessarily solve all of your concerns. She made some very positive comments about the way it was being done here, and feels strongly that they want to work with us. So her attitude was completely different, and the staff has said that that they were very impressed with that, because that's generally, tricky to do. So other than that, we waited, we sat, I got up and spoke a little bit about how I felt that the town had been incredibly supportive, of the schools through the override, and really was doing the Doom building being studied at $720,000 in a town that really didn't always have the money to appropriate, and that we wanted to keep moving forward, and we would do our best to work with the building committee and the town to determine whether or not we could come up with something that was going to be in the town's best interest, both educationally and obviously fiscally. So it was very positive. We weren't on the agenda for any real project discussion, but they wanted us to come personally to hear how impressed they were with the process that we were following, and how much they wanted to encourage us to stay with it and to keep working on the town's behalf, students of the town's behalf.
Any questions, things to add?
Pat, can you just, for the board, can you tell them what are the options in the feasibility study?
I think the first option, as I mentioned, I think the first option is to justify what we have on paper. That would be obviously the most economical. We already have the schematic ready to be submitted, and it would just be a matter of simply, addressing the study report, getting it back into them, indicating to them that we feel it works. And that is not just drop it in their lap. They've indicated they want to work with the community all the way through. So as the architect starts to prepare all the information, he would be making that available. Those space templates would be going to MSBA at the same time. They would be looking at them, and they'd be dialogued with them all the way through. So that option one is, like I said, is to go back in, and if we find that in moving these spaces and taking a fresh look and doing something else in that building, moving spaces, then that would be option one.
The only thing else I'd add, though, to Pat, they still want us to identify, along with that option, the space issues at the high school. And if
Yes,
there's any,
correct.
so in other words, it might be, they might suggest that, in addition to doing that Pembroke project, that there would be some additional
work.
items that would be done to make the high school
Correct.
come up to a certain
And
standard.
that space template that gets done is going to really show where the space deficiencies are, but then there'll also be outlined not only the space deficiencies as they exist, but also, again, if they're inside spaces with no windows, there'd be an asterisk that this is a space that may be adequate, but there's no windows. Or the science rooms are, in this particular location, they're okay, but there's a moisture problem, something along that line. So there'd be identification. So with that, again, like I said, there would be a program that would say that the K through 6 may be okay, but as Carol mentions, there might be some other things that have to be addressed, either as part of this program or at some point to be identified. The next step is obviously what other options are there, and this particular report would start to talk about other options. Is it a 1 through 7, leaving Ks? Is it a K through 7? We won't know until we start putting that together. They were very specific. They're not looking for the community to start from scratch and coming back with 20 options that we already went through. They understand that as part of the solution, you need a new building. The question is, how big is the building, and what else has to be done to solve the other issues? And they're looking for a couple of other options besides the base option. So they're not looking to, start to analyze another 10 of them. And their sleeves are rolled up. And if I called them up on Monday and said, we want to come in and show you some initial information, we'd have an audience. They'd let us come in because they're very anxious to work, and they'd like to be able to maintain the momentum. They know how positive and how constructive that is.
So, for the board, I just wanted to make clear the feasibility study, the options that they're going to be looking at is as currently we've seen, with possibly work done to the high school. That's one. And then all of the other grade configurations are on the table. K through 7, 1 through 7, K stays in Pearly, K through 8.
They mentioned K through 8, but they're throwing things out because
Right.
they're not sure.
They're not sure. So I wanted to make that clear. The schedule. Tell me if I have this right. That everybody understands. Using the town meetings as a marker for the schedule. We were shooting for the spring of 2012 for being ready for town
Correct.
meeting. We're now hoping that we can go to a fall special town meeting, 2012.
Right.
There is a very real possibility that we may not be ready. There's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of questions to answer, and if that were to happen, that would delay us till the spring 2013 meeting. That's just information that I want you guys to have. Is that correct?
Yes, that's it, yeah. If you weren't ready for the fall, then you'd have to go to the spring. Everything just simply continues to slide.
But at the end, we get the right project.
That's the
Correct.
important.
Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
I think is the
Yeah.
big thing that we have
Well-
to remember, and that while it's disappointing that we're not, pushing forward, our project in May, based on the timeline that we had set and all the hard work that you put into it to really get to that point, by the MSBA kind of calling a little break and saying, let's rethink this, we're going to end up with what we really need. So.
Yes.
And we will make sure that there is enough time to fully educate the town on what's going on as well.
That's right. We'll be having
That's-
another community
That's
meeting
huge.
very soon.
Right.
And we had one Monday, but we didn't have this information available at the time. And the other thing is, as Pat said, it might be that the preferred option is exactly the way we have it. And therefore, we can just go ahead and proceed. So it really is crucial that this expanded study take place because we need to identify what the issues are for this education, for the educational system.
Well, you won't get any money at all from MSBA
Yeah,
if you
we
don't do
just
the
need
study.
to
That was
know it.
very clear. You know, we're not willing to commit our money until we know that you've done this expanded study. And you've looked at everything and you're sure that this is the solution.
And I want to, I guess, reiterate Ellie's point of the money is coming out of a contingency. This is not additional money to the project.
Yeah.
It was built into the project, quite frankly. That's what the contingency's for. So,
I just have a,
Sure.
does anyone else have anything that they want to add? Just a couple quick things. If we're looking at possibly making it a K to 8, that being, after hearing what everyone said, that seems like it could be the biggest. Would you also have to consider moving back to the other site, if you will? Like, could a project this size?
Oh, you mean moving the fields? That's what the study will do.
That's what,
It will
okay, so
look
that-
at all
so,
of those.
So you're going to consider that as well?
Absolutely.
When do we get to the point, and this is just kind of an overall question, where say you come up with K to 8 might be the best solution, and I'm just throwing that out there. I have no reason to think that. At one point, can
We
you,
don't either.
well, I'm just saying, you know, worst case. At what point can you say, this is the best, you know, educationally sound option? It meets all the criteria. However, we don't really have a pocketbook for that.
Right.
When do we get to say it's good, but how about if we keep K at Pearly, cut the cost down a little, and we'll do a 1 to 8 building, or we'll do a 1 to 7 building, because that's really what we can afford. At one point, do we have those?
When Carl finishes the feasibility study, his study of the options, the way he did before, it will be on a chart.
Yep.
And it'll go past that G on, he's just gonna add on. And that's where it will be.
Okay.
He said, 6 to 8 weeks, he might reach a point where he can present these, and we sit down and we look at them, and we cross things off, we say this doesn't work for us, and let's look at these. Now, it's not really that many more options we're adding.
Right.
You know, we have to be clear about that. Really, all he's looking at is the possibility of expanding the school by either 1 or 2 grades, and or finding flexibility. Maybe, like you said, maybe even kindergarten and first grade don't move for X amount of years, and we pull 7th and 8th down. Maybe we pull 7th down and first grade up, and leave kindergarten and 8th grade for X amount of years. That's what they figure out. That's what they're there to do. That's why they're meeting with Carol and Peter. They're going to ask them about all of these things. And then they'll, in an objective way, which is better than us doing it, they will objectively say, here are your choices. These are the things that we think will work for Georgetown.
And then the final analysis, just to answer the question real kind of directly, is that when it comes to the preferred option, the preferred option is going to be the best educational plan we can come up with, that Georgetown can afford.
Okay.
Because we can come up with a grandiose plan that
Right.
you can't afford. What good is that?
Exactly.
So it's got to be the best educational program that Georgetown can afford, and that is everybody buying into it. I mean, there's a lot of boards that everybody has to buy in. So again, like I say, it's that's what this is going to be all about. Because if K through 8 might be something that we look at and say there's just no way. Everybody will look at
Although
it. and say,
educationally, you can sit there and say this is the model that is perfect.
Yeah.
But when you sit down and look at the price tag, you say there's no way that we can do that.
So, and everybody's aware. MSBA is very well aware that you need a project in this town. You have to have a project in this town, and it's got to focus around a new building.
Okay.
What that's going to look like and what the peripheries are going to be, it remains to be seen.
Okay.
That's why the schedule of February, what was it, Ellie, that you said, 7th, of trying to get the boards together? It's really important if you guys can make it, because that decision, what the architects do is they're presenting, the options in the plans, and then they have their matrix to evaluate the pros and cons of them. The decision of cost in that discussion needs to happen very quickly, and so everybody would be well served to get to the meeting on the 7th.
But I do want to correct something. He won't have the
That's
options
the s-
ready by then. This is more the board's making those decisions.
But this is where it's starting, and it's gonna
Right.
happen really fast.
Right, like it
So-
did, like it,
Correct.
like what we just went through.
He's going to be able to just guide us through, the process that he's going to go through.
Yeah.
And like Rob says, it's going to be up to all these boards, all of us, to say what is the best thing to do for Georgetown.
Thank you.
So I think the big thing is everyone should look out for a multi-board meeting,
A
combination,
public meeting,
combination community meeting, in the next
Yeah.
few weeks.
a public meeting, right?
Public meeting, right. So we'll be scheduling that so that MSBA will be out here, all the boards will be hearing what they have to say, the architect.
It'll be a chance for the boards to also ask the MSBA these questions
Right.
that you're asking us, so you can hear it for yourself.
So we'll, as soon as we have that date, it'll be posted everywhere we can possibly post dates and meetings and things.
The only other question I had was, and I know you folks have dealt with this before, and I wasn't privy to it, but since these options are being looked at and a lot's being put on the table, what about the option of moving Pembroke? And I know you guys have discussed this in the past, and developing a new high school. Has that ever been? I'm sure it has been discussed. And what? Just so the public knows, if we're looking at all these options, it would be wonderful to be up to date on what we've done.
Yeah, I didn't get the impression that their intention was for us to throw everything that's been done. I mean, it's the town, we've spent $720,000 on a
you will,
feasibility
yeah.
study
Yeah.
to get to that point, to now have to appropriate at least that much to
Yeah.
design a high school. And honestly, one of the things that was very interesting when we went to the board meeting, they publish an agenda, and obviously there are certain places on the agenda where they had projects where we would have been if we were there. And there were a number of elementary schools, and every one of those was in the mid to high $40 million. And these were new schools. One was a reno that was at least that much. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure exactly what they were doing to that school, but it was in the mid 40s. High schools were between 107 and 120 to build a new high school. So, and what I learned from the MSBA in asking that question, because when I first came here, when we had a hiatus when the MSBA was reinventing itself, and our project, the original project, the building committee worked really hard on to get a middle school, elementary school with shared spaces, which we kind of affectionately called Plan A. When that didn't end up coming to fruition in terms of making it through the entire process, I asked about that. Well, why wouldn't we build a high school and then take the Pembroke students, put the Pembroke students at the current middle high school and the Pearly kids at Pearly, and have an elementary campus situation? And what I was told at the time is that when you look at the spaces at the high school, they would not be comparable to the spaces that are expected for elementary students. For example, just a simple classroom size. The classroom size is 900 square foot, and there isn't there may be a couple of 900 square foot classrooms, but the majority of the classrooms. So the cost of a new high school for the town, in addition to what it would take to renovate the current middle high school to be suitable for elementary students based on current standards, would have been, I think, quite a high price tag.
I thank you, because I think my point in the question was just to get that information out there,
Right.
so that people have heard it and that issue was
Would
addressed.
I say that the best solution, if we didn't have these things we had to work around, I believe that is the right solution. But it's not. It doesn't appear to be an option, given the cost and the fact that it doesn't meet the same standards.
And I could add
Thanks.
one other thing, Rob. There wasn't any land available when they
Right.
were first doing the
Right.
study.
Right.
Because MSBA does not refund any money the town spends on land.
Right.
And I believe, and I actually have reached out to a few people who were on the committee with me, but I believe when they first started the committee, they sent letters to people in the town looking for land to purchase or donate or something.
Yeah, that was a major issue with the high school.
Right,
Because we don't have enough land.
right.
All right.
Thank you both.
Thank you both for your
Thank you.
time.
Look forward to seeing you
Good
again.
luck.
you.
Okay.
Okay, moving right along.
Other director.
Next up is Mr. Adams and Mr. DeFranco to talk about the
And
athletic
Peter,
project.
you're welcome to come as well.
And Peter and Mr. Gill, if
Yep.
you're interested.
He is the owner's project.
You're doing okay. You're doing okay. You're doing okay.
Sort of supposedly.
You are, it's a lot. This is a lot. You're doing okay. See, we're, this is probably 10 minutes.
Brian, if you want to come up, you got. Okay.
Who's there Monday night?
You're good.
I just figured we're talking about athletics that involves everybody.
Okay.
All right. So you have a surplus in the athletic budget.
That would be nice.
All right. So, what do we want?
Do you want to start with?
Yeah, I guess. Do you want to
budget
just
or
give us an
concussions?
overview?
Budget first, probably.
What was my option? Was
Or
budget?
Budget or concussions?
No. Why don't we go with? You want to? We're doing the budget first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we definitely, are looking at a loss again. So for next year, I've, basically predicted that if we were to meet, our expenses, which are projected to be $332,000, we would need to increase our user fees pretty substantially. Basically, if you look at it as every $25 increase gives us $13,350. We would need to raise our user fees either, depending on the figures, to $140.35 or $206.83 on top of our old fees.
On top
Okay,
of our
so wait a
old
minute,
fees.
so say that again. So right now,
So
people pay 300.
$325
Okay.
for most high school sports and
Okay.
$255 for middle school sports.
Okay, so now, hit me again on what the
Yes.
changes.
So basically, if we look at the town giving us $100,500, which is the figure we came to in our subcommittee meeting, we'd need to increase our user fees by $140.35. And that would, give us a balanced budget.
Which we haven't had in 4 or 5 years.
At least, because I think I remember when I started on the committee, we weren't balanced, and we had that was, I think, maybe when we started really going up with the user fees. And the reason, just so everyone knows, the reason why the expenses keep going up is there's a few reasons, but the biggest ones are transportation, as well as officials. Those are really the two big ones. The other positive and negative is as we keep winning in these tournaments, it costs us more to get the players there.
Coaches' salaries go up too.
Yep.
Right, but okay, they do go up. But
They went up 2%.
Yeah, but the bigger, the
Yeah.
biggest ones.
And we've also seen a downward trend in student athlete participation, which
Thank you
that's a
very-
big hit.
Does
Yes.
it 2% or 3%?
Sorry, what?
2% or 3%?
Two.
Two.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing out the fact that we were looking at athletes in 08-09 at 600, and now we're down to just over 500. And what's really interesting, because we never really had any good information on this, this isn't necessarily exact, but user fees went down, but you didn't see any more athletes come out.
Right.
Right. The 600 number really was an exceptional year where we had lots of kids play middle school field hockey. We had 2 middle school soccer teams, and that brought the number up probably 50 more than it normally is.
Wow, okay.
So what we'd be talking about if we did what Chris is saying is we'd, in essence, be back to the user fees that we had before the override.
Well, that can't happen.
$450 and $375.
That can't happen. Not this year.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I think he's just presenting,
Why is
kind of.
lacrosse so much?
Why is what so?
Why is lacrosse $22,000?
Part of that is the boys and girls are combined there.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's 2 levels of each program, so that's actually 4 programs.
I mean, we did talk about increasing our middle school program, instead of just having one team, have like a white team and a blue team, and actually, because there's three other school districts that have middle school sports, and actually one of them, which Jimmy Hamilton went on.
Manchester.
Manchester, I never get that right. Manchester Essex has that system, and if the 3 other teams did that, there'd be quite a few.
But didn't you try
games.
to get a middle school soccer team this year?
The
and it
soccer
didn't
team, I'm
work?
talking basketball, I'm not talking
You're just
soccer.
talking about basketball.
Right.
The problem with it, frankly, put on the table, the problem with the middle school soccer is it's co-ed. And the kids have not been interested in playing in a co-ed format. And that's all the option is in the area. It's not like there are middle school boys soccer or middle school girls soccer. They're all co-ed. Right? Am I right?
Yes, none of the middle school teams are co-ed.
Yeah.
And the kids have an option to play club or travel.
That's
for-
true. Like, and many of the children do play travel. That's true. You know, just to add to the fun, we actually do have a deficit in athletics projected for
Yep.
this year.
So what are the options? Cutting sports or raising
Not.
fees?
Raising
I mean-
fees, I mean, adding more to the budget would obviously help.
The plan we have already was that including the $50,000 additional that we discussed? Or was
Not
that-
yet. No,
Not
because
yet,
that was
okay.
for, yeah.
Okay,
That's not yet.
so one of the things we did talk about the subcommittee was, well, what if we put $50,000 more in the budget? So we would have the choice, which is 33, and then the 6750 or whatever we had in the budget, plus add 50,000 more. I still don't think that gets us there, though.
That'll only cover one
And then we could
year.
have a minor user fee increase, so it's not $150, but maybe something like 25 or
We had
50.
talked about, as budget and finance, we had recommended 25.
25 increase.
But does that still get us there, though? That's
Closer, but not quite.
Okay, but I guess we have to know, like, what
about the
gets us there,
transportation?
right? So
Yeah.
how far, do you know how far away we are, Chris, in that
So if
situation?
we had 50,000 extra, that would
But
mean
in
we'd need to make up
transportation.
about $50,000.
Yep,
So for every $25, we're getting 13,000. So you're looking at about $100 still.
Which we can't do.
No.
Now, we did discuss the transportation costs.
Yeah, that was one option we had thrown out of transportation.
Yeah, if,
I'm just saying if we
I
can.
believe we were talking about the middle school. We would not, we could try and do the carpooling thing.
Yep.
That was something that we
Yeah,
threw
we
out
did.
at the
we
meeting.
talked about, beyond a
Rather than
certain
increase-
mileage, you know, people get themselves there. do you
Is
know
there
what I
a
mean?
way to do transportation so rather than increase the overall user fees? I mean, obviously some sports have many more games than others.
Right.
Is there a way to increase the user fees relative to the sport?
You can do that, but you'd probably see some sports fold.
Really, the only sport that doesn't play 20 games is football,
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
but at the varsity level.
What do they play, 8?
Yeah.
Football plays 10.
10.
You could look at charging each sport's user fee based off of how much that sport costs.
We've talked about
Yeah,
that
we've
for
talked about that.
years.
Yeah.
But I think you'd see some sports disappear if you did
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that
We
I
agree with
agree,
that.
yeah.
We agree. We agree.
Okay.
And I think in the past, when we've tried to figure out, well, okay, so if we cut, let's say we said no freshmen, some sport. The problem is the reality is some
You've lost
sports
leaders that are subsidizing
others, so.
There's diminishing returns when you do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You really have to cut a lot of sports to actually reduce the user fee, because each time you cut a sport, you're losing user fees.
So we weren't sure if we added like a couple of middle school, another middle school team, even though there is a cost to that, you'd have a certain number of user fees, probably more user fees than what it would cost you to run it.
What would you add?
Well, we were looking at something like middle school basketball, right? We only have X amount of slots, like 15 or 16 slots. And there's many more kids that are interested in the middle school playing basketball. So the question is, there would be a couple of games where they'd have to play each other, but then they would also play these other teams, some of which have two teams in their league. Again, we'd have to probe that. I'm not sure that would.
You have to do the numbers because
I'm sure it would close the
there's
gap.
such a small roster on basketball, and then you have the coach's salary.
Yeah.
The profit is very slim there.
Yeah, so,
Well, at middle school level, there's only, I think, 3 other towns that we play anyways,
yes.
Right.
right? Rockport, Manchester,
Right, 3
Ipswich,
other towns.
and then us.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only way that you can do it is to pick a sport where the user fee exceeds the actual cost. And I'm not seeing that except for cheering
One thing that we talked about a little bit
or
just
middle
today
school track.
was bringing perhaps a co-op with cross country and bringing another school in, and that would bring a little bit of
Interesting.
extra money
Right.
without incurring any new costs.
That's a good, yeah, I was thinking the same thing this morning, we talked about it, could we co-op with any other?
Yeah, but Mr. Adams, you probably know better than anybody here. It's my understanding that the MIA only entertains co-ops based on enrollment, not monetary.
Oh, no, well,
Yeah, no, it's co-ops are only for building up a program.
Right.
So if you don't have enough numbers, then you can build up a program, and theoretically, at this point now, the MIA has decided, because co-ops became so popular, that once programs get going, they now shut them down. And that's probably gonna end up, to be honest, hitting Georgetown.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's not a cost-sharing program, it's it's a
Right.
building.
It's only to
Only
allow
the-
you to get a program going.
Going.
And if one of the two communities can
Be
provide their
self-sufficient.
own program, the other community might have
Yeah.
to go looking somewhere else. And there are options around. For instance, with cross-country, there are some other non-league viable options that we could bring kids in, that would be a profitable.
Yes, that aren't in the league.
And it would help the program.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So just so I understand, we would be short, even adding $50,000 to the budget, increasing the user fees. We would be still short, how much, Chris?
I have about $25,000.
About $25,000. What did you
Choice.
say?
Where are we getting $50,000?
That's the problem, if we put it in the budget.
83 out of choice for sports?
Well, we don't
Yeah.
have 80. No. The
have
proposal,
33.
the proposal choice isn't gonna be an option. When we looked at the budget, when we all look at the budget, I think what we're gonna see is that the school choice, unless we accept additional school choice students next year, the school choice with having a teacher on it, having 33 from athletics, now having the technology lease on it, very,
Right, no, I understand,
very quickly.
but that's what I'm asking.
We would
Where's
have to
the
put
50
$50,000.
coming from?
We would have to put $50,000 in the budget.
Currently, there's a
That's all we can
$50,000
do.
recommendation in the budget to increase athletics by
But-
50 grand.
But we need to bring that number down, so we're looking at everything.
I thought we
But
talked about it in budget and finance coming from choice.
Oh, see, I didn't have that.
Yeah, my notes are in here.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought we said budget.
Yeah,
Limited
no, we
to
talked
cover
about
this
it
year's
coming from
direction.
choice.
Okay,
But
I
that's
didn't-
on top of the 33.
On top of the 33, correct. But
Well, that's
that
not what I
doesn't
remember,
sound like-
because we put it in the budget, so I think we wouldn't have put it in the budget if we heard it that way. So, again, we may have no choice to look at that, but honestly, I don't think we would have suggested choice because we know that school choice is not viable. It's not viable. The projection in that school choice account next year is $149,000.
Yeah, no, we definitely
We
came-
did talk
yeah,
about that choice.
It was choice,
That
because
was
I remember the
coming from
choice.
149.
It says that in the minutes, that's
Yeah.
why I
Okay,
said
okay, that's fine.
83.
I think we need to rethink that,
So,
personally.
okay, but at the end of the day, we're still, no matter where this 50
Yeah.
is coming from, if we have the 50,
Not
we're
enough.
still 25 down.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
And that's with an increase of just 25 on the user
No, that's
fees.
without the increase. So
That's
with,
without
with the increase would
13.
be about
12,000.
yeah.
If 13,250
Yeah.
comes from a $25 increase.
I mean,
So, I don't know, could you, something between 25 and 50?
I don't really want to go more.
I know
My
we talked
opinion
about that.
is
Not-
no more than 25 based on the override that we went through last
Yeah,
year
it's not, yeah.
to get this.
not
But
a-
Right.
on the other hand, that means that we're going to have $100,000 in our budget to support sports.
Yes.
83,000 plus the deficit of 12 is going to get me to 95, so that's going to be close enough to 100. So we're going to have to, when we go through the budget, we're going to have to figure out if we can support that. Otherwise, I'm not sure what our other options are short of cutting out programs. But I don't know.
I agree. We just haven't been able to figure out the way to do that and not, because it's sort of a domino effect, right? Depending on the team you pick.
Right.
But what are we thinking about the transportation? Would we not go there?
I think you should consult with the district's council on that.
Yeah, I don't think they're
Again,
gonna let you do
serious
that.
liability.
Well, we did
issues.
talk about that too,
Yeah.
like the liability. I
Yeah,
think we
that
brought
was one of
that
the
up.
things that we had actually brought up.
Maybe Naomi can tell us what she thinks about that.
Yeah.
What do we have for freshman sports? Just basketball and football?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, and if we're gonna make reductions, it's gonna have to be like almost like you have to look at the profit or loss on each one to figure out which one is gonna get you to that
Yeah.
number. Yeah, so that's not going to be easy or quick. And we don't have middle school soccer on here anymore, right? Because we haven't been running it.
Right, it hasn't run for
Okay.
2 years.
All right. Okay.
I mean, the other thing we were talking about doing is there anything we could do to fundraise for the program? So, for example, could we do anything with advertising? Could we run sports camps? Those were things that we've thrown out in the past that don't require us to cut, but allow us to bring in additional revenue.
What happened with Big Cat sports camps?
I think we made Guy an administrator. He didn't have time to do it.
Honestly,
I'm not
it was
sure,
a lack of
actually.
interest because I was
Yeah.
signed up to be the soccer camp, and we just didn't get the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because when you
It was
signed
very
up,
late. Remember, it was very late.
It
when
was
we-
late,
yeah.
and I mean, I already signed
People
my
had already
kids up
signed
for
up.
the
Yeah.
soccer camp that they always
Yeah.
had done.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first year was going to be. I knew it was going to be hard, but I thought that they would
Yeah,
go forward with it.
but
didn't.
again, I don't think we should stop thinking
Don't
about
rule it
what
out.
creative
Yeah.
ideas we might be able to have, so we're not in the position of just thinking of cutting.
Well, that's fun.
Okay. Moving right along. I guess
So,
is it
Ann, do you need a vote to do anything with a deficit this year in choice to vote to take it from choice?
I think at this point we should probably firm up whatever the number's going to be that we're going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
transfer
anything
from
now.
choice, and then for school year 12, and then as far as the budget and how we're going to handle it next year, that's going to get worked out through the budget
Yes,
review
Right,
process.
right.
We're not going to have a choice on that. So I guess at this point, the big things are firming up what our deficit is going to be this year, so we can figure out how we're going to be funding that. And then next would be, when we review the budget, is to consider a $25 increase in athletic fees over where we are right now. I don't think we're going to be able to get around that. And then how we're going to fund the balance of the deficit for next year.
So you said what? You said 25 got you 13.
13,250.
Approximately 13.
So so you'd have to make it 15. I
Yeah.
mean, if that's that would be the maximum that
Right.
you'd have to consider.
Yep. Alrighty. Is there any other questions on the athletic budget?
I just want to understand the process that we go through from here.
Right.
Okay, we, right now we have to
Which
firm
process?
up, we have a FY12 deficit,
Yeah.
but what we don't know exactly what that is yet. So I'm hopeful that we have to go through spring signups, right?
Yes.
Before we know what the spring signups and establishing
Yeah.
the spring sports rosters, then we'll know how much we're down, and then we're gonna have to figure out how we're funding it. Not a good situation to be in, which means we're gonna have to cut something else to cover that. So that's this year's deficit. Next year's deficit is going to work itself out through the budget process. Right now, we have we fund
Okay.
athletics $33,000 in choice. We had thought we were going to fund an additional $50,000 through choice. We're not sure if we're going to actually be able to afford that or not. And then we're contemplating a $25 per student user fee increase over where we are on this year's fees, not the old fees.
And can I just mention that I think that the committee, and certainly I've been interested in talking about this a little bit more too, is I think, we have to get a handle on sort of a 5-year plan for how we're going, this fundraising stuff is getting out of control with individual splinter groups. I mean, I know what happens in a lot of districts is that the fundraising goes through a booster organization, and then the booster organization actually supports some of the expense of the athletic program. And I know that we've got some folks that are really trying to vigorously get the sports boosters up and running, but I just would like to know, like, how recent are the different teams' uniforms, and do we really need to be every 2 years? Buying new uniforms, or a new coach comes in and says, I want a new hat, or whatever. I just think we need to remember the end user. I just think it has to be controlled through the school and through the ADs and the principal, and because I know Ann and I worked extensively, on this whole issue of the boosters, and what should the policy be on that, and we certainly don't want to discourage people's interest in supporting the program. Absolutely not, but it feels sometimes like there's needs we have that we can't address, but we do all these other sort of extra things that I'd consider to be nice to haves. But I'd rather see the money sort of funneled into the essentials, because every year, we can't keep subsidizing the athletic budget out of other sources beyond what we've identified for athletics. So I think we just need to pull together and have like a more of a coordinated approach to looking at athletics and working with the groups that want to help us raise enough money to have the quality program we want.
I agree. Yeah, I think the only downside is that you might lose some of the enthusiasm, because I think people
I know, I
are
understand.
enthusiastic when they're fundraising for their sport.
Yeah, I understand.
And if you say, oh, it's going to go into general fund that you might get uniforms from,
right?
People are going to.
Right, especially when we heard baseball tonight. It's like you know, they're jazzed up. Football was jazzed up in the fall. They got their stuff done, but we can go on to that.
Yeah, I think that we need to figure that. I think we should just continue to talk about
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do we have concussion questions now that we should?
Yes.
This is the first reading.
Yeah.
Of everything that
Of-
you were distributed last week, or in the last meeting, about the concussion and the SAC test and that we'll be using and the forms that will be signed when the incident happens, when the student goes to the doctor and has to have the doctor's clearance before they're allowed to play again, and everything else. So if you have questions about that, now is the time to ask, since we have the experts here.
Yeah, I was going to say while they're here, why don't we clear that one right off? Any questions about concussions? How we're going to deal with them?
No? Yeah, you.
It's a pretty extensive policy.
Yeah.
I just have a question. When a student gets a concussion, who is the one that's at, how do we know, like, that he gets a second one, and who keeps track of all that? When they get one, like, so a child will come in and we think he has another one, and you have a database that says, oh, he's already had one in football. Now he's having one in baseball.
Ultimately, I believe, and we've discussed it, it should fall upon the school nurse to keep the health records. Ultimately, it should go, you can't rely upon the coach, you can't, you know,
Right.
to me, and you can't rely upon the trainer too, as we've discussed, because the trainer doesn't cover all games.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it
And
ultimately
she's
has to
part-time.
funnel, for that reason, to the nurse, aside from the fact that there become ramifications that are school-wide, not just athletic. So the school nurse has to become involved and should be the record keeper. Should communicate with administration, guidance, teachers, coaches, you know, through the athletic department, but she should be the main
She
record
has
keeper.
records anyway.
And so if a concussion occurs, then it's incumbent upon the coach to report it.
Or the parent.
Or the parent. To me, it does not matter who. A parent's not going to diagnose, obviously, but if a parent brings their student athlete to a doctor and a concussion is determined, that report should get back to the school nurse. That's the thing.
That's the new law. They have to tell us.
And how
We
many
have form.
concussions is it
They
before
have to fill out.
they can't play anymore? Is it 3?
Actually, there's a wide range of concussions in the severity, and so
Right.
one concussion can have very serious
Yes.
impact. It's not whether it's 1, 2, but as they accumulate, they it becomes more important, and it can obviously have a student athlete sit up for much longer, even if they're mild.
Okay.
I think what the research is suggesting at this point in time is that actually the concern is with not the big concussion, which people pick up on, but it's the repetition of the very small ones that go unnoticed. And it's raising a bigger question in those contact sports across the country right now.
Yeah, a lot of us are just playing no one under 13 should even play any kind of contact sport. We'll follow the law.
Yeah. We're going to go with this. Right. Any more questions?
Yeah, 'cause we'll vote on this at the next
At the
meeting, 'cause
next
that'll be the
meeting.
second and final, so.
All
Great,
right.
great.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
That was a pretty good document.
Okay.
Amazing.
Moving right along. Superintendent's report.
I'm deferring to the principal's reports.
All right. MCAS action plans, Pearlie and Penbrook.
So they're both coming up.
So, Margaret, you
Oh,
draw the
Donna
first
was
draft?
I thought Donna was coming up too. No? Donna, you coming up too? Okay. Here are my packets here. Ladies, thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying.
It's all been very interesting.
Let's see if we can get this to work.
It says found, not saying searching anymore.
There you
Put in
go.
your bag, 'cause I got a slide.
Miss Helena. Okay. Now I have my PowerPoint on my screen, but it's not up here.
Peter,
Oh, see, that's what.
do you have any idea how to help with it?
Might not have it connected, but
Isn't that what he was saying? They show
Yeah,
up on the
something's wrong
screen,
with-
but they
something's
don't.
wrong with, between the Mac and the PC.
That what shows
You're
on the
not
computer
compatible.
doesn't show up there, he had said.
No, but she's on her PC.
I'm on.
She's on her PC.
Oh,
Here
this
he
is not
comes.
hooked up.
It's not clone.
It's not cloned.
These technology people.
Extend needs to duplicate.
There you
Oh, it's back to searching.
It'll take a sec.
Well, we have this.
All right.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you realize the power
Thank
you
you.
carry?
There you go.
All right, we're ready. All right, well, this is the Pearlie School Report, and again, obviously, kindergarten and first grade do not take MCAS, but as we know, we are a district, and we are building the foundation for what is to come. So I'm going to go through our action plan. And I've broken it into two parts, English language arts and mathematics. Our ELA action plan is to align all literacy curricula to new Massachusetts standards, train teachers and administrators in concrete literacy instructional practices using strategic reading groups to provide intervention and monitor growth, implement a tiered instructional model at the Pearlie School, utilize data to identify students, monitor their progress, and report progress to parents. And we are doing these things ongoing. We work with our literacy coach, Kate Donlan, with embedded professional development on a daily basis. She works in classrooms on providing reading and writing support. We also have spent the past 2 professional development days working with Kate Donlan on, again, honing our practice in strategic reading groups. And we are moving toward a response to intervention model of providing support. That is, we're looking at students' needs, and in our child study team, identifying children that need extra support. And then when we're looking at our data, to provide also intervention with literacy and mathematics. Our SMART goals, by the end of 2013, kindergarten and grade 1 students will reach 80% proficiency or above on the DIBELS assessment. And the DIBELS is a research-based assessment tool that measures early literacy skills. And DIBELS actually, as an acronym, stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. And DIBELS is it is an indicator of reading success. So it is comprised in kindergarten and first grade of 2 or 3 subtests. Each one takes about a minute to assess, and there are benchmarks. And so we're looking at those scores. We give the DIBELS 3 times a year. So in a slide, and in the next slide, you're going to see beginning of the year data and middle of the year data. So again, it's kind of gives us a snapshot of where a child is, and then with those results, we plan instruction. By the end of 2012-2013 school year, kindergarten and grade 1 students will reach 80% proficiency or above, grade level as evidenced by Fountas and Pinnell assessment data. And again, Fountas and Pinnell is an assessment system that provides the teacher an independent and instructional level based on a student's oral reading and comprehension. And this is a formative assessment that, again, we use on an ongoing basis. It tells us the level that a student is reading
and we use a fiction and a nonfiction book. The teacher, again, assesses in a formal level. And then when the level text is reached based on comprehension and also their decoding, looking at meaning, visual, and semantics, then it lets the teacher know how their reading and in reading groups assessment is, again, used on an ongoing method. So this is the mid-year DIBELS data. And you can see the purple is the September data and the green is January. Now remembering that there are 3 subtests for grade 1. In kindergarten there are 2 subtests in the fall and 3 mid-year. So at grade 1, 74% of the students in September had reached benchmark, and now in mid-year 86% of students have reached benchmark. In kindergarten, in the fall, about 84% of students had reached benchmark, and now we're not close to 80%. And this next slide is going to be new, but I felt that I really needed to show you why that is. So this is not in your packet, and I apologize for that, but again, when I'm looking at that data, I really need to let you know that, again, in the fall, for kindergarten, there are 2 subtests of the DIBELS. There's first sound fluency and letter naming. And these 2 subtests, again, we have mid-year. So this is really comparing apples to apples. The 3rd subtest is not given in the fall, so that has skewed the data. So in the fall, the first sound fluency is based on percent. Okay, and I know those are tiny little letters. So about 83% of students were proficient, had reached benchmark in the first sound fluency. And this is the teacher giving the student a word, and then the student has to tell the teacher what that word starts with. So, and as many as in a minute. At this time of the year, you can see it's about 86%. So in that subtest, children actually scored better. The next one was the letter naming fluency, and that is reported in the number of words read correctly. So again, you can see from the fall to now that actually has gone up. This next slide also you don't have in your packet, but again, I didn't have this data last week, and I wanted to show you that concepts about print is another assessment that we use that lets us know, initially, this is the first assessment kindergartners are given in the fall, and it tells us what they know already about reading and what they know about print. So in the fall, you can see that close to 30 students were below stay 9, and again, this is reported in a stay 9, which I'm not a statistician, but it lets us compare students in a particular age, how they're doing. Because again, you can have a 5-year-old starting kindergarten or a 6-year-old, and it really isn't the same information if you're looking at age. So we report this in a stay 9. And then the number at stay 9 and above. So at this point in the year, there were only 3 students who were below. The students that were below have now either reached stay 9 or above. And so this data doesn't really show that, but some of those students might have actually really learned a lot this fall, and so are now above stay 9. Mid-year Fountas and Pinnell data for kindergarten. Teachers will look at vocabulary lists. They're also going to look at the CAP, and based on that, they're going to use the Fountas and Pinnell to assess students that are reading at level B or higher. And at this point, over 50% of the kindergarten students will be assessed with Fountas and Pinnell. So again, that will be ongoing until in February. And this is the mid-year Fountas and Pinnell data for grade 1. Again, in September, there were close to 39 children who were reading below benchmark. 17, now there are 17 under. 16 in the fall were at benchmark, now we're up to 37. And 55 students are over. And again, what this doesn't show is how the students that are now, that have made, this doesn't tell you that some of the students that were under might actually be over, and it also doesn't tell you how far over. So again, some children are reading 3 or 4 levels over grade level. And then in mathematics, our action plan was to align all literacy curricula to new math standards, provide professional development with everyday math. Consultant Jen Quinn, provide intervention to students identified in need of support with John Crossman. By the end of 2012-2013 school year, all students will reach grade level exit outcomes as defined by everyday math, grade level, and Massachusetts grade specific standards is assessed by the everyday math end of year benchmark test and end of year Common Core aligned assessment. So the mid-year data, you're not going to see fancy charts because the assessments in everyday math are not reported as a percent. They're observational. They do have end of the unit tests, but they're reported in a different way. So based on beginning of the year assessment, students answered questions with 91% accuracy, and based on the 4 unit assessments, 85% of grade 1 students are scoring 80% or higher.
Keep going.
Interventions are based on, again, observation by the classroom teacher and by the unit assessment. And as we know, everyday math is a spiral curriculum, so the unit tests are not based on one specific area. So you won't have one test on money or measurement. So there are questions in all areas. And then in kindergarten, again, based on assessments, 94% of students are scoring 80% or higher. The next steps are to provide embedded professional development in writing with our literacy coach, identify kindergarten and grade 1 writing curriculum and assessment rubrics, and identify a kindergarten and grade 1 mathematics benchmark assessment. And we've already started looking at an assessment called ASPENS, which is Assessing Student Proficiency in Early Number Sense. And this is an assessment that's published by Dibbles. And again, it's based on 2 or 3 short 1-minute assessments that would give us data not linked to a particular curriculum, but more benchmark.
Thank you.
Questions?
I have one quick question. Sorry. Do you see, I mean, with the full day K now been in place for several years?
3? How many years have we done that now? 3? I've lost track.
Yeah,
I've been here
it's
too.
3. Because it was the year after Teddy.
There you go.
Great.
Thank goodness.
No kidding. Do you see a difference?
Well,
there we
again,
go.
I love
see a
data.
difference.
I love looking at data, and these graphs do not really give you the full picture of how well students are doing. Because when we're looking at the Dibbles in particular, there can be maybe 3 or 4 children in a class who are below benchmark in just one of the subtests. And in grade level meetings the other day, we were talking, and you can have children who are, 94%, but all it takes is one child who might be 70%, and it brings, in the aggregate, the data down. So there are actually few children that are not making benchmark. And I mean, I'm thrilled when I received that mid-year data. I was saying to our literacy interventionist, Cheryl Reeves, it was a Friday afternoon, I said, please don't go till you get the data to me so I can spend the weekend looking at the data. And I was like, oh, it was fantastic. So even though there are some children in one subtest who might have been below, it was thrilling. So it does show children are, again, 50% of children or more will be assessed with Fountas and Pinnell. The end of the year benchmark is a level C, and many will be above that.
Do you want Donna to answer your question?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, I know that the second grade teachers have said things in the past that they see a difference.
Yes, they do. That you said, yes, last year they noticed. Well, they particularly noticed now that the curriculum's a little more aligned from K to 5. We see a difference now in kids coming in with the readiness and, the way things are approached and more stamina. We see that difference.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you for mentioning the alignment.
That makes us very happy.
Whatever happened to blankets and milk and naps?
There's still milk.
In school? And it's only regular milk.
I'm not
that
sure about, that's right, no chocolate or strawberry
Else we're
milk.
trying to get rid of this.
And I don't, let's see, they still take rest time, right, Margaret?
They do.
Well, they have to, they're there all day, they don't have a choice.
Well, it is
They're
a
being
rest.
arrested
It's
in
not,
second
it's
grade.
not
Not a-
nap time
not
like
a
in
nap,
years
right.
past where a child might
Rest.
fall asleep, but it is a, how would we?
Quiet time.
Quiet time.
But it's probably not the,
Levity.
it's not the kindergarten that
That I
maybe we
remember.
remember. That's right.
I loved kindergarten.
Do you remember kindergarten? We didn't have to go to kindergarten when we were kids.
I went to kindergarten and Mimi Thurman tried to sit laid down beside me, sleeping with naps, and she tried to kiss me and I'd run all over. It was unbelievable.
Okay, let's keep moving.
It was unbelievable.
Moving on to.
Where's
Moving
me
on to
now?
Pembroke.
She's a good friend.
You okay, Donna? You got everything you need?
I don't know if I have to switch because this is.
You need
a
him?
Went from PC to Mac.
Is he coming? I think he. Matt, do you
Don't
mind? Do you? Oh, here he
On
comes.
his way. Yeah, I was gonna go grab him.
We're now on to a map.
Your wife's gonna be like, what? Who's Mimi Thurman?
No, she already knows everything.
Figured this out once. I don't know. It's probably settings.
We weren't afraid of technology.
You want us to accept this setting?
You need an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's like,
There's some
Text
truth.
it.
There's some truth to that.
Text Maddie. He probably knows. He knows all Mac everything.
Oh, does he?
Good classroom.
Okay. Thank you.
There we go.
And
you don't have a really good
under the
spot.
TV now.
Do you want to come over?
No, I can see it.
Oh, you can see it
Because it's projected
yeah.
from there to the TV.
Oh, there you go.
So this is, first of all, this is our MCAS action plan that we've kind of put in place when we receive our MCAS now. Early in the year, we get the preliminary scores in June, and then we get the final scores sometime now, early August, so we're very happy about that. But I wanted to first recognize the teachers at Pembroke because in the 5 years I've been there, they've gone through a major transition.
Yes, they have.
Between, changing of the literacy program to the changing of the writing program to a change of the everyday math program to the changing of the phonics program.
And the
So they've
science
done-
program.
And the science program. So they've done a lot of yeoman's work. And I think this year we feel really good about our results. We're not satisfied, but we do feel that we have, starting to climb the way we want to start to climb. So we tonight I'll just go over quickly some of the things that we look at when we did our analysis early this year. And we did it back in October. These are our AYP. We're still high in AYP rating. But as you know, the state has a target for 2014 that all schools will have 100% of our kids will be past MCAS by the year 2014, which is fastly approaching. And it was interesting, there was a great article in Time magazine talking about No Child Left Behind this past week, which really said, what have we gained from No Child Left Behind? And as I talk to my colleagues in the suburbs, one of the things that we struggle with is not making that AYP every year because the bar just keeps going up and up and up for us, and it's hard, hard to get to that bar. But this is what we see, and I thought this was a great graph to include. As you see, last year we had an English language arts and math. This is a dip. We saw a dip last year. Sometimes we talk in English language arts, that's an implementation dip. But what we did this summer is we really realigned our literacy units of study, and I think we'll see better results. But you can see in math, huge improvement. I think 2010 was a tough year for us. We felt our MCAS weren't as good as we would like them to be, but as this year we find that they're now starting to go in the right direction. And in mathematics particularly, in the first year implementation of everyday math, we had a 5.9% improvement, which is unbelievably, for first year implementation. So these are the cohort results. So this is the boys and girls that are currently in grade 4. This is the current grade 5 cohort. This is what they did in 3rd grade and what they did in 4th grade. And I think the things that we kind of keep in mind when we look at the cohort results is, what's difficult for us is MCAS was the first year for 3rd graders. That's the first time they're ever introduced to the MCAS test. And, it's anxiety, and as much as we try to downplay it, it is very much anxiety for their kids and our staff, and kids know that. Then they get to 4th grade. In 3rd grade, they have 1 booklet. They get to 4th grade, and now they're in 2 booklets. So now they have to transfer their answer, and if they're off by 1, then right away they're thrown off when they have bubble in their answers. So, we get them through that process, but we really think once they get to 5th grade, as you can see, we were really happy with our English language arts. We had 77% of our 5th graders last year, and our biggest group in advanced or proficient in mathematics, 73%.
Now, Donna, when you look at those numbers, those percentages look high. Like, for example, you see 17%. How many kids does that represent? Because I think sometimes that's another thing when you look at percentages, that small numbers look like bigger percents.
Well, we did that last year when they were 4th graders, when it was 26%. It only represented 39 students.
Yeah.
So I would say 17% is probably 20.
Yeah, like that 9%
Well, that's
is 11.
17%. That's the big class, though.
Right.
That's the
Oh, right,
154
150
kids.
Right.
yeah. It might be.
Right. But it was last year when they were 4th graders, they were the same class.
No, they're fifth.
What are we talking about?
These are the current, this is
cohorts?
current
Yeah,
6th grade.
cohorts.
Yes.
I'm just asking about like how many kids, because when you're trying to make sense of that, it's easier to look at, instead of 17%, say, oh, okay, 20 out of 150
Right.
kids. It sounds
Then it
very
puts it more
different.
into
And it
perspective,
allows you
I
to say,
think.
oh, okay, 20 kids, that's doable. We can provide interventions for those children, whereas in big cities where there's lots and lots, it's much harder to do.
It's very helpful having the number of students in parentheses.
Yes. Yeah, oh, yes, I didn't see that at the bottom.
Some of
did
them
that
have it,
2010,
and
we
some
Got it.
do.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
2010, yeah.
So one of the things that we did this year, we really paid attention to looking at the student growth percentiles, which is they started last year. DOE providing that. So as a parent, when you get your results home, you get the growth percentile of a child. So that goes anywhere from 1 to 99. So when you look at your child's MCAS results, you'll see how much growth they made in a particular year. This really helped us, particularly looking at our subgroups. And I think what it does, it measures the students, how much the students change relative to where similar students scored in previous years. So what that means is other information gives us the information about the standards, but this really tells us, are the programs we're using with kids, is the instructional practices we're using, are the specialized programs using special ed working for kids? So we can kind of say, what kids didn't demonstrate growth? Was their growth percentile below 50%? And then we try and look at that and then really peel that down particularly for our kids, saying, where did the problem happen for our kids in that particular area? So it gives us more information than just a proficient or advanced score for our kids. So we really targeted that, and then we also target the standards that our students did well in and did not do well individually. Our teachers have those results, and they get them early in September, and they take their students' results and look to see where the weaknesses lie. Going the wrong way. So this is the median growth percentile. As you can see in English language arts, in 2010 there was a dip, but in 2011 our median growth percentile in English language arts has now grown. It's 51 is the median, and then if you could see it, it's up to 62 in mathematics. So we're on the right track with our growth percentile. We looked at our MCAS, ELA in grade 3. At the top of the areas we were strong: vocabulary and concept development, nonfiction, informal English, and style and language. The areas that we still think we need to address are poetry, short answers, and then open response. Even though our open response, I'll show you a little later, we really did a great job this year, and I'll show you what the work our teachers did. The only area we were down from as compared to the state was in the genre, and that's always tricky because you don't know which. Some years they used they put in dramatic literature, some years they put poetry in. You just don't know what particular genre they're going to be using for each test each year. In grade 4, we were above the state in every area in English language arts. Our strength was in formal, informal English, in genre understanding text, and again, open response, poetry, and writing. And writing has been an area that we really know that we have started to focus on. I'll talk a little bit about the things we've been doing in writing. And in 5th grade, our open response was 56 percentile. We still want to be a little better in English language arts, but we were strong in dramatic literature. This year, instead of having poetry in the 5th grade MCAS, they had a play. So we worked really hard on poetry all year with our 5th graders, and there was not a question on the MCAS on poetry. We did vocabulary concept
But that's why
development.
you can't prepare
and
that way, because it's a guessing game.
Right. But again, we're above the state in every area. So our strengths were vocabulary, understanding text, and our open response answers improved. And the areas we're going to focus on is open response question and comprehension strategies. And we're going to continue to look at poetry. We're not going to forget about that. And then explicitly the writing piece. But this is something our staff is really proud about, is how we've really worked hard. When they talk about MCAS and parents worry, are we teaching to the MCAS test? And we say no, we give our kids authentic learning experiences. But the reality is we do have to teach open response questions. It was 2 years ago when we finally said we really have to give our kids the skills and strategies to be able to answer that, because it's not just putting one answer down. What are they really looking for? So as a staff, we really attacked that problem in mathematics and in English language arts. And that is time consuming for teachers to have to do that. But it is an important component of the test, we've realized. But if you see our mathematics, how much our open response has gone up in 2011, and again in English language arts, we're really proud of the work our teachers did. So here's the results. We went up in grade 3 from 43% to 60%, 50 to 51, grade 4, 55 to 60%. So we really think that we're on the right track with that. So our goals are to improve the proficiency of open response questions. We've identified common language. Our staff really worked on developing posters that we've actually posted in all the classrooms of ways to approach open response questions. So when we give them in the classroom, kids follow the steps, and I'll show you a little bit about that. We are using short text. We're doing interactive read-alouds, and we're using exemplars for open response. We continue to practice that in our classrooms, and that's grades 2 to 5. We're going to increase the amount of students in reading across all genres. What we did this summer is we refined our units of study to align with the Common Core. One of the things that we really saw that we needed to really, and especially in English language arts, is really up our units of study and build a continuum, so we've done that. We've worked on the response to intervention model, where kids are pulled out to get extra support, and the teacher now is providing the second tier in the classroom with small group instruction, because that's been a big focus of our professional development this year, is really providing. We opened up our new level library that's really provided the tools for our teachers. And this is one of our big pushes, is the writing. We actually last week, 3rd and 4th grade teachers met with a representative from a writing trainer, thanks to Julie, setting it up for us on from the DESE to talk about what they look for in that long composition, and then really helping us kind of think about how we score kids' prompts and how we give them feedback. And I think that's the next step we have to take, is really helping it. I think what's interesting to watch the curriculum development Pembroke is, when I first arrived, all they did in 4th grade was teach personal narrative all year long in 4th grade. And now that's significantly changed. But we actually changed it a little bit this year, because when I met with the 4th grade staff, we felt like the units of study last year didn't spend enough time on the personal narrative, building ideas and topic development. So we've shifted that around this year, so we reorganized that, our units of study. We do provide WPP online, because that prompt kind of writing we can't do every single day in our classroom, but it gives us a chance for kids to have a prompt, and be able to respond to a prompt. Much of the writing that we do is not necessarily we give you the idea and you write about it. Much of it is built upon the writer's notebooks. And we do our writing prompts 3 times a year in different kinds of writing for different purposes, and we collaboratively score those prompts. So this is what we came up with. This is how to answer an open response question. We're very proud of this work. We worked really hard for a year just making sure we had common language with the school, so you read all parts of the directions, You know, you read the story again, you mark it up, and you list at least 3 reasons. And the thing that we found is our kids were just putting down 1 reason. They weren't going back and giving evidence because they thought they'd answered the question. In their mind, they had. So they had to go back and interpret the answer they gave and really kind of give more. And so each year we try and push kids to provide more of an answer in their open response questions. So it'd be interesting for you to see our units of study as they develop through the grades, in how our writing units now build upon each other, but they also build upon that personal narrative in 4th grade. And then in 5th grade, we don't do the personal narrative. We really push our kids to do memoirs, persuasive writing, different kinds of writing fiction, big dreams, tall ambitions. So we kind of build through it. And, this is still a work in progress, but we feel really good about the way the units are progressing for getting our kids prepared for the long comp. So in math, again, there was only 2 areas we went down in 3rd grade, and that was inferences and 4 areas. Inferences and predictions, techniques and tools, and numbers, patterns, relations, and algebra. So those would be the areas we'd focus on, making properties of shapes, inferences and predictions, and patterns relating to 3rd grade. In 4th grade, short answer, open response. Even though we had 78%, I thought that was really good. We're going to still continue to focus on that because our cohorts change each year. And our strength was some of the areas that we focused on from last year: statistical methods, data collection. And in 5th grade, the only area was probability. We had a difficult time in statistical methods, but our number since we had 77% correct, and so our numbers have got significantly higher, and that's a tribute to our new math program, which the teachers absolutely are enjoying. But we all know that curriculum is just tools, and we need to make sure that we find out if there are any gaps in our curriculum. So we're going to continue to monitor that. These are our open response questions in math. We went from 73 to 80 in grade 3, 64 to 78 in grade 4, and 68 to 72 in grade 5. So we're kind of happy about that. So our open response results trending to be improvement between 4 and 14%. And then geometry was always an area that we struggled with, and that we saw a strength in that this year. And then we're still seeing, areas in algebra, statistical methods, and number sense and operations. We're going to try and increase the 7% student scoring in number sense. We're going to use that response to intervention. We're fortunate to have a math specialist, John, who we share with Pearlie. And, we have actually blocks for enrichment enhancement, and John works in the classroom. It's a scheduled block where teachers know he's available. We also purchased Marilyn Burns Do the Math program as an intervention program for the kids, and we have that intervention block, and we also still use Study Island and math missions. But I think probably the one thing that teachers will tell you that really helps our math open response was those math exemplars that we practice, because they're much more difficult.
Numbers and words.
Yeah. Pictures, numbers, and words, yeah. But they're much more difficult than a regular open response in MCAS, and it really asks kids to apply their mathematical thinking. And then we're going
as well.
We're going to continue to try and improve in our algebra in grades 2 and 5. So using response to intervention and enrichment enhancement, same kinds of goals and same kind of areas that we want to focus on. And also we want to focus still on open response. We're not going to stop doing that because we think it's important for our kids to know that piece, because so much is weighed on the open response to get 0 to 4 points on that. We do have our math exemplars we practice in the small group, but the common language is probably, here's our open response, and our math leadership team worked hard on this. And the first thing we thought kids should hear is to breathe. You get the question, breathe first, and then underline important information, then read it again. And I think the thing we're trying to stress to them is you don't just read it once and try and answer it. You keep going back to it, and that's really important. And then does it make sense? And then circle the answers so they know they've actually solved the problem. So these are posters that are up. ELA and posters are up in every single classroom at Pembroke, and it was a very proud moment when we were able to pull that together. Science and technology and engineering, which again we've seen improvement, but not as much as we would like to. Physical sciences were strengths, and earth and space science, and then identify areas needed with light, energy, and energy and living things. One of the things that we're going to look at this year is developing end-of-unit assessments in science, so we can really kind of monitor what's happening in our science curriculum. We really need to purchase more textbooks to kind of support reading in the science areas inquiry. Maureen O'Connor is starting a book group to talk about, we've added an inquiry project to every grade level in science, so every grade level during the year will do one inquiry project in science, and Maureen O'Connor's doing that teacher book group. And this is a smart goal I added this year too, is really looking at our special education population. That's our subgroup. One of the things we did is we really looked at the growth percentiles of all our kids, and then look at the kind of strategies we're giving them and the programs and the tools we're giving them in the classroom and how we're supporting them. And then we're also going to monitor closely. We have students that do take the alternate portfolio assessment, and those are also included on that. And we sometimes those don't come back as well as we'd like them to. So we want to really focus on that subgroup this year. So we're going to still continue to set high expectations and really notice the good things that are happening in Pembroke, and continue to work hard to improve our MCAS.
Thank you, Donna.
Good job.
Thank you.
Great.
That was good.
Any questions?
I do have just one question. The WPP that was introduced this year.
Yeah.
The only concern that I have is the whether or not that program. I'm just finding that the confidence level with the kids goes down, because first of all, a computer corrects it in 5 seconds. You get that. And I'm just thinking of my own experience. My children are all excited to read it to me, and then they, submit it, and then it comes back, and it's not that, it's not what they expected to get. Sometimes the teacher recognizes that and will say to the student, wow, you really, the computer really blasted you this week, or whatever, which I think is great that the teacher actually takes the time to say that. But I just think that the student, when they get that result, it just...
Yeah. Well, I think, there's a couple of things. The most important thing about the writing process is the feedback we give kids. And for a teacher, giving that kind of feedback, that authentic kind of feedback regular in the classroom is probably the most important. This is just a homework add-on. What it is helping kids practice prompt writing. So when you're asking them to kind of answer a question that they're going to be prompted in MCAS, and giving that feedback, our teachers have figured out the trick to the computer, how they score it, and we haven't told our kids, but we kind of know how they spit it out. But I think the idea is putting that effort in, because sometimes when we get to MCAS and open response and those long compositions, sometimes it does come down to putting in that extra effort to be able to do that. We had teachers that pilot it, and I have parents that absolutely love it, and some parents that sometimes feel frustrated by it. But it's not something that's graded. It's not something that is used in their grade. But it is something that teachers do give feedback, and they actually use them sometimes in the classroom to help kids, saying, let's look at this, let's break this down and see how we can get a little better. So I understand that kids
if that's happening, then in my own experience, I know that the teacher has said that to the student. But then I know that, it doesn't happen across the board. So I'm just concerned that those children that don't have the teacher that will say after, you did a great job on that, I think, the computer was a little rough on you. Just concerned about those kids.
Yeah, that's the first I've ever heard of somebody being worried about that, about being rough on them. So, and the teachers haven't expressed that either. But we'll
maybe
continue
could bring it back, that's an experience that maybe some students
So
are
that's
having.
an add-on piece of homework.
An add-on?
You
Well, that's what
stepped
you
right
said.
into that, Donna.
You said that's an add-on piece of homework.
I think it
I
was.
think if they use it and
it's
they
an,
don't do it
It's
in
an
school.
additional
We don't
homework
need
that
any more
hadn't been
add-ons.
used
Well,
in the
it's
It's
past.
an add-on
homework.
for writing, so that you get additional exposure
Well,
to the writing.
it's part of what they were assigned for homework as opposed to doing other things. What we found is our kids that are most resistant to writing do much better on the computer, because kids are really stimulated by the technology. They want to be on the computer, and our most resistant writers will write to WPP with it when they have to do the labor-intensive writing it down over and over, and then draft. What do you mean I have to go back and fix that? Well, on the computer, it's a little easier.
Right.
So I guess for us, it's like we give a wide range of both. That's not the one thing we do. We do a lot of things really well with kids, and that's just a small piece. But it was really helping our kids with the prompt writing, because on that day, on the long composition for our fourth graders, they get that question in the morning, they work all day on that.
I know.
And it's very nerve-wracking for them. And the prompt, they don't know what the prompt's going to be. And we try and give them an idea. They have 2 or 3 ideas in their head stories that they may think that they can develop, but still, they sometimes freeze. So that WPP gives them that prompt writing. Okay, here's your prompt, you got because that's going to happen to you. That was pretty much the most, but some of our teachers that piloted last year, Meg Lancaster and Cheryl Lashendo and Jacqueline Taylor all piloted last year.
Mhm.
They spoke for Megan, Cheryl thought it, Jacqueline thought for third graders it was a little harder because of the keyboarding skills, but so we didn't buy it for third grade, but we did, they said they thought it was really valuable for them and their kids.
It's like anything else, right? It's every individual child,
Yeah. Teddy hates
has a
typing.
different experience. Teddy, what did you say?
Teddy hates typing it.
Yeah.
He hates typing it. He writes everything out.
Oh, he does?
Yes, and he's now offering to pay his brother to type it for him.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, I'll type it
He's
for
a
him.
little entrepreneur, that Teddy, I have to say.
Just a couple of questions. You said a couple of times, see improvement, but not as much as we would like.
Mhm.
And I was wondering what that meant. Like, did you have expectations based on the program and they weren't meeting that, or?
Well, I think what happens in the MCAS is that is a very stressful. It's 2 days in the world of MCAS testing, and I think for us sometimes we get disappointed in some of the kids that because of the way this test is set up, it's difficult for them to take that test, and we look at their results and we go, wow, we just know that that MCAS score doesn't reflect really how strong a student they are. And we always are doing that dance of pushing kids like to do well in MCAS and really doing the authentic learning that's going to really do them well when they go to college and in life. So we do that dance all the time. So it's hard. It's really I have to be, for me, as a principal, it's really hard because I know that authentic, the real things we do with kids all the time, the things that we have to take out of our curriculum to do the open response thing, sometimes tugs at me. So that's what I guess when I get deflated when I see a kid that I know that's not reflective of who they are as a student, and I'm like, I'm so disappointed for them.
Thanks.
And I think it also, there's an expectation that the townspeople have on what the results should be, and that sometimes is a push and a pull.
Sure.
And there's also state targets that they give us,
Sure.
that they say, you're here, you need to be here, and so there's the pressure to push for that too. So, and some people put a lot of emphasis on that.
And I think if you look at the Time magazine, it talks about that, the No Child Left Behind, the failure of No Child. What has it really done to improve education? Are we on the right path? But that's a political thing.
We could go on.
But
Okay.
I'll leave that alone for now.
It's 9:30.
Thank you, Donna.
Just in general.
Yeah, I
know
just
it's
have
late.
one question.
Just in general, are the PowerPoints, is the point of the PowerPoint and the communications for the handout or the PowerPoint?
Not sure what you're asking, Ron.
Is the PowerPoint presentation, what is the point of the communication? Is it public for that, so that is the
public
point?
sees
So
it.
it's
We'll put this
not,
up on the
it's not the
website.
hard
Yeah,
copy.
we'll put this up on our website afterwards, after tonight, once you guys have
Okay.
seen it and looked
Yeah.
at it.
What-
Are you asking because
Okay.
it's hard to read it small?
What I'm asking is that, this is something that I do a lot of, and the graphs and the summations are easy to get quickly, and the text is really hard.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge to communicate it all, but it's just a general
I think it serves two
observation.
purposes. I think it's Donna's presentation to us, and I think the next piece is to get it out to the public.
Yeah.
So I mean, the one way, typically when you do slides, you have like 3 bullets, and they're about
Yes.
5 to 7 words each, and then you speak to them. The problem here, it's not a problem.
This is going
But
on the
this is-
website. This
this is
has
serving
gotta
two
tell a
purposes.
story
She
by
wants
itself.
to detail the
Yep.
That's
goal
cool.
and the action plan.
That's
That
the
an-
advisory
that-
council sees
that
it too.
answers my-
Yeah.
And it
that
kind of
answers my
drives our
question.
school improvement plan to a certain extent,
Yeah.
our parent survey, and this is, all that information kind of
Yeah.
gets worked together.
No, and that makes sense.
Yeah, you only have
This
2
is-
items.
I mean, this
Yeah,
is
2 quick
consistent with
approvals.
that.
I just have one quick question. On the cohort results, especially like grade 6 and grade 5, I noticed the dip in the middle year, or in grade 4 specifically.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
That's a long composition.
Is that the long comp?
Yeah.
I should have
Yeah.
remembered that because I
Yeah.
remember in an older grade I had the same question as the long comp. Okay.
It's the first time
But
they do
no,
it.
oh, it's the same in math, right? Because they have to do the math has the same dip.
No.
Well, that was a program. Last year was the first year of the program. So.
Yeah, but no, we have the same thing. Like, grade 3 was 78, then went down to.
And also, the tricky thing is it's two books. Here's your book. Here's your questions.
Okay.
Here's where you got a bubble.
Yeah.
So you got to
that
go
is
from
hard.
here. And if I'd missed that bubble, and I don't think a lot of kids do, but
Yeah.
if they're off by 1 or 2, and then
And that's just maturity sometimes too, but I'm not blaming that's like a
Yeah,
big
no, it's just
problem.
kind of interesting that both of the cohort groups have that grade 4 dip
Yeah.
in both math and English.
But I think if you looked at the MCAS tests, if I brought them, you would see third grade, they break them in. Fourth grade, they kind of make it a little more difficult, and fifth grade, and then it kind of goes way up. So I think
So by the
that's,
time we get to Peter, it's easy.
Yeah.
No, I'm
He's
just
got it
kidding,
easy.
Peter.
What?
Yeah.
It's all right.
No.
It's not worth repeating. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much. That's
Thank
a
you,
lot of
ladies.
work.
It is a ton of work.
It is a
That's
lot.
a lot of work.
Lot of work.
those graphs.
All right. Feel free to.
Yeah, you guys can head out.
Yeah.
It's a long night. All right, moving right along. Old business. We already talked about the new concussion policy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I completely forgot the financial report and subcommittee reports.
Well, there wasn't anything in
wasn't
the
anything.
subcommittee reports you did.
New concussion policy, we already discussed. We're good with that. Next up is new business, the approval of technology, of a technology donation for Pembroke.
Right, so we have an anonymous donor who's generously donated $500 to be used toward the purchase of an iPad for the Pembroke School.
Is this is for the box tops winner?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
box tops
So
winner.
whoever wins with the most box
Parent
tops
had-
wins.
I see.
The
And
donation.
Some classes are being discriminated against.
They are?
Somebody classes already have
Oh,
iPads, so people
see,
are
there
sending
we
in
go.
their box tops to other classes because they feel bad for them.
Oh, see? So that's a community that takes care of others.
That we had $1,000 check for box tops last time with the contest, and this time we expect that to be a little more because of the iPad. I mean,
That's
kids-
great.
Kids are crazy for this.
Grocery store
Incentives
going,
are a
"That's
good
box
thing.
Doubles.
I used to send around the little things that you can't.
All right, so
Hi, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
One tomorrow, last
Go
one
for it,
tomorrow.
Matt.
Mr. DeFranco. It's
Oh, there we go.
Good
Thank
luck.
you, Matt.
Thank you.
tell them to go easy on you. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the $500 donation to be used toward the purchase of an iPad for the Pembroke School as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next up is the approval of an additional homeschool family, which we've outlined in the packet.
Yep.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the additional homeschool family as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Don't we need executive session? Is that what you said?
Oh, just to approve that contract, I just need to quickly.
Okay, Chair, we're gonna go into executive session,
You're not coming back.
for, the purpose of contract, approval under chapter 30A, section 21, paragraph 3. And this is a roll call vote. We won't be going back into regular session. Rob?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
me.
Okay, we're now in executive session.
But, still on.
Rob, can you stop?